been able to hear you the entire time.
Brilliant. Now I can hear you too.
Okay,
This is a
wonderful.
wonderful show. We are live. Thank you very much, guys. There are times when technology is a challenge. So we are restarting the show now. We are
Okay.
11 minutes late, but we have the time on our side. So thank you very much for the patience, for seeing live the commotion caused by the technology lapse. We live in a world in which there was a time when they say when humans can to err is human, to really follow things you need a computer, so we proved that. So Neeraj, welcome to the show. Guys, everything is okay now, we are going live. So Neeraj, welcome to Jaipur Dialogue USA. Just to give you a quick brief on Jaipur Dialogue, it's an India based entity, and for the last 2 or 3 years we have been doing enormous narrative building on Indo-US relations, India as a whole. And I have been a constant, regular participant on the show every Wednesday. And the idea came about to start JD USA, to bring about the message of change and the narrative building. So we are here today to talk to Neeraj Antani, who is youngest Ohio State Senator. And very remarkably, I find it very remarkable for two reasons. One is the fact that I heard you at Boston event, and I predicted you were going to win last year when the elections were coming. So congratulations for your good win. But you are one of those rare Indians who is a Republican, and you cherish your conservative values on your arms and your sleeves. So explain to us that in a country like America, where 80% of Indians are registered Democrats, how did a young man feel and decide to join Republican Party as a conservative? So give your story to the audiences all over the world.
Well, Vibhuti, thank you for having me. It's truly an honor. I am proud to be the first Indian and Hindu American state senator in Ohio history, and also the youngest Indian American and Hindu elected official in the country. It's truly an honor for me, and very grateful to be able to represent our community. That's a good question. The majority of Indian Americans are Democrats. But I think it's important for our community to have friends on both sides of the aisle, to have voices advocating for our community on both sides of the aisle, because when one party is in power or out of power, our issues in our community should not have to worry if their voices will be heard, depending on which party is in power. And so, we can't just rely on Democrats. We have a Democrat president now. We had a Republican president before. We have a Democrat Congress now. We had a Republican Congress before. And so, we really need voices in both parties. But for me, look, I think that, I believe that Indian Americans, Hindu Americans are very culturally conservative. We believe in independence, not dependence. We believe in working hard and persevering. And these are all qualities that the Republican Party espouses. The Republican Party believes in that rugged individualism of being able to work hard and take a hold of opportunities and to succeed. And so, I think that the values of the Republican Party are reflected in our community.
That's very true, that you can't be only on one side of the aisle, and I totally agree with you that in this great country, the opportunity is the name of the game. And one of the things which I do know is that a senator once told me a long time ago that we love you Indians as immigrants to this country because you are professionals, you are hardworking, you are educated, you are in the highest median income, you are least problem on a law and order side, apart from occasional white collar crime or misdemeanor or whatever, and you have family values, you take care of your children, and you ask for nothing. So that's one thing which is very important. It stuck with me, that we never ask for anything, which is true. So while they appreciate us, I also know that there is a margin of thing called, somebody said, yes, they appreciate us, but do they respect us? That's a very interesting observation from a very learned man. He said the question is whether appreciate is one thing, respect is another. So, share with me one of the things which I wanted to ask you was the American dream, the most wonderful phrase called the American dream. People are willing to give an arm and a leg to come here. But there is a major immigration problem here. So the immigration dream, from my point of view, is not owning a Ferrari and a beachfront house. The American dream is that can be as well. But essentially, the American dream, in my opinion, revolves around the concept of respect and dignity, hard work. Your work gets rewarded. You are not discriminated. You are treasured as a human being. And I saw that in 1991. And today's America, as I see it, is not the America I came to in 1991 with my son in tow at 7 or 8 years of age. Today's America is a remarkably woke culture has come about, and that is truly bizarre. Today, the a joke went around that America's greatest export to global culture, social and cultural event is its woke culture and cancel culture. How did that come about? And I know Republicans are not part of that woke culture, but how do you contest that element of the current imbroglio that United States social and political life is involved in?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, on the American dream question, I would say that the best part about the American dream is that every person has their own, right? It may be a home with a white picket fence and 2.5 kids. It might be that. It might be a Ferrari and an oceanfront mansion, and that's okay. That's
Yes.
good, right? And so, but at the end of the day, the most important part is that America is the only country in the world where that American dream is possible. In other countries, they live under dictatorships. They do not live free. They live in abject poverty with governments who do not care. They live in countries where under strict religious law, where if they are not that religion or they don't abide by that religious law, they are beaten in a lot of Arab countries. And so America is the only country in which the American dream is possible. And every person has their own. The important part is that every person has the opportunity to achieve it. And that is incredibly important. And certainly we have strides to make in ensuring people have that opportunity. But there is more opportunity here than anywhere else in the world. On the wokeism and cancel culture. Look, I am a Republican. I think that our party certainly has its criticisms. I've been one of the most vocal critics of our own party, even though I've been a member of this party for a very long time, and I love my party and believe in my party. But we have to get better. We should get better every day. But on the political left, there is this level of intolerance, right? The left preaches that they are for diversity, they're for racial diversity and gender diversity and cultural diversity and religious. At least they say that, right? I don't know that they are, but they say that. But then, if you're conservative, they don't tolerate you, right? So they are tolerant of everything, racially and gender-wise and all of that until you're conservative, and that I think is a big problem.
How do you address that big problem? How
Well,
does the
I am not a member of the political left. I think that the political left, we address it by beating them in elections, and so that's how I think we on the political right address it. But look, I am not a member of the left. It is not my job to fix the political left. It's my job to fix the political right as a member of the political right. But it's not my job to fix the political left. If they want to be that intolerant, then they are welcome to.
You are absolutely right. I agree with you that I see that they talk about, and I emphasize the word talk. They talk about tolerance, they talk about diversity, But when it comes to accepting others, they don't. It is their view is my view or the high view, like or highways, and that's the kind of challenge which I'm encountering with the Democratic Party and many on the Democratic left, that they have suddenly embraced socialist imperialism. If America became what it is today because of the policies they have followed ever since. Where did the wokeism about socialism come about here? How did that happen? Because it all begins from education. You are thoroughly engaged in the education process here. At what point in time do you think that the education system began to embrace leftist policies, and what needs to be done about it? Because in converting children and teaching them what they are teaching in the schools today. I'm glad my son is not part of the today's primary schools and other system, what is going on. But how do you contest that? Beating them in election is great. I mean, I'm glad that you guys beat them. But how does this change happen, which has kind of caught on in a very popular vein?
Well, the only way to fix the issues in our schools of leaning towards the political left is for those on the political right to become teachers, to be frank, because they would be fair. They would not push an agenda. And so, unfortunately, those who are conservative typically don't become teachers. They don't become professors. But the only way to stop that is to get them to become teachers and professors. Because look, we can ban things, and we'll do that, but you can't, police inherent bias. And someone who is, on the political left will have that inherent bias, and it will show in their teaching and their professing. And so, the only way to fix that is to get, people to become, conservatives to become professors and teachers.
That's a good inspired statement for conservatives to go back to teaching, but looks like it is getting to be an impossible fight, because I do receive some emails from conservative colleges and places like that America is changing the left education. But would you like to share, if you know, at what point in time the left ideology swung into the academics and the schools?
I mean, I think it's been there for quite a while. So I don't, but I do think it's become more brazen, recently. I think that it's always been there. Look, I'm only 30, I know, but it was there when I was 15 years old. I argued with my teachers in the classroom, maybe walked out a couple times, but it's always been there. It's just I think it's much more brazen. But look, it was there. When I was a freshman in high school, it was there. Okay, so it's been there for quite a while.
It has been. I'm glad to hear that you were the bold and the brave who walked out of the class. Congratulations, good to hear that. But how many of them will do that? Because that is called courage of conviction. So I applaud you for that. Good for you, and good for people who are enlightened and have the ability and the courage to stand up. In today's world, if you do that, you're thrown out. Forget about walking away. You're thrown out. That's the challenge which I'm feeling, that American society, in the name of tolerance, is becoming highly intolerant.
That's right.
And that is something which is bothersome, because in this woke culture today, you have to weigh every single word you utter, every single way you look at somebody, and you are constantly harassed by anyone and everyone. And that intolerance that has seeped in comes from the left. And I notice one thing very clearly is that left is united completely. I don't see them breaking ranks with one another, other than Senator Manchin, who is trying to assert himself in his own way on the budgetary issues. But I notice that Republicans, many of them break ranks. And that united front is essential to break the so-called hegemony that one wants to establish.
It's not only that, but the left is becoming more left. Bernie Sanders is moving people to the left within his party. It is a race to the left. Now, you could say the same thing about the Republican Party. I acknowledge that, but it is absolutely also happening in the Democratic Party.
It is happening in the. Let's discuss one thing about the political correctness part of it. 12 years ago, I remember I was in a part of a think tank. I still am, study group as we call it, and one of the things that happened was one of the things that happened was that we were talking about political correctness and entitlement, and they were discussing the issue of how people need and must have something. And I had opined that political correctness and the sense of entitlement will drive America nuts, because that's what is becoming a more visible thing to happen. Everybody is entitled. That entitlement comes from the proxies and the words used by the left, and the left Democratic Party is drifting further and further away to left. How does America restore sanity towards the moderates and the centrist part of it, which is what makes America great?
Well, look, I think that it's important to remember that there are big differences that sort of drive this partisanship, right? We don't agree on the solutions to the problems our country faces, and partisanship in that realm is good because I will be frank with you, I will never vote for a tax increase. Democrats believe tax increases will fix things. I will never do it. The question is not whether we disagree. The question is, how do we disagree, right? And can we do a better job of disagreeing more respectfully and disagreeing in a way that isn't as vile? That is the question, and I think that we can do that.
Of course we can do that, but the point is very simple. There was an era, I've seen it happen here, when Newt Gingrich and Bill Clinton brought about an understanding contract with America and made things happen.
Well, Bill Clinton didn't do that. Bill Clinton didn't.
I don't see that happening today. I mean, the difference has become so stiff. The difference has become so binding that nobody is willing to budge. And when you budge, people have a problem because you give in. And Republican Party is the one that invariably gives in more than the Democrats do. And that's what is important to make a policy decision and move forward in the action part of it.
Well, it's important to remember that Bill Clinton had nothing to do with Newt Gingrich. He opposed it. He opposed it vociferously. So I don't agree with that. Now, when you have a Democrat president and a Republican Speaker of the House, inevitably they will have to work together. But Bill Clinton had nothing to do with the contract for America.
No. Newt Gingrich always says that. Look at how we teamed up to do it. I'm not. This is not my opinion. I'm quoting Newt Gingrich on this one, and he was pointing out to bipartisanship. Clinton.
Well, they were forced into that with a Democrat president and a Republican speaker. I can promise you that if there was a Republican president, that would not have been the case. So, look, you have to remember that the Republican Congress impeached Bill Clinton.
Right.
So partisanship was as bad in the 90s as it was, now. So, anyone who says that, partisanship is worse now than before, they just simply don't know the history of American politics. They just don't.
Okay, I see that point. Is it maybe because of technology we know a lot more today than we knew before?
That I would agree with. That the 24-hour national news media makes it sort of a lot more known, right? And social media advertises a lot more, and perhaps gins it up some more. Partisanship has always been there. We have sort of access to the play-by-play now. Every day, which perhaps was not the case, 20 years ago.
Let's talk about the advent of technology. About several years ago, I was in Middle East country on a consulting assignment, and I had opined then that technology will force people towards greater amount of transparency, and technology will force people towards more honesty, because we can't hide anymore. There was a time when everybody could say, and especially true of people in politics, that I was quoted out of context. Now, nobody can claim that I'm quoted out of context, because your context at your speech is played millions of times in a day. So people no longer use that phrase, I'm quoted out of context. So share with me, if you will, there's a beautiful Hindu phrase called Ardha Satya. Literal translation is half truths. That the politician always lives in his own world of Ardha Satya, the half truth, in his own world, and how they are able to reach out to the voting public and other public with their element of truth determines their success or failure. So I noticed one thing, that in the last presidential election, people in California were also protesting and rising up against the what's going on today in California. The once golden state is not that golden anymore. How is it that five big states like New Jersey, New York, California, Washington, they're all left and they are doing badly? Those governed states are doing badly, but people still go for them. Can you explain that phenomenon in a
Look, I don't pretend to understand what Democrats do, but what I can tell you as a Republican legislator in a Republican state, if you look at the differences between how Republican states are doing and Democrat states are doing, there is a big difference. You know, when you look at the rates of crime in education and jobs, Republican states do better, without a doubt. And you know, I don't understand what voters in New York think. I really, really don't.
Well, I lived in New York. I lived in California. I lived in the bluest of blue states in America. I have not become a Democrat. I don't agree with the policy part of it. And I've seen New York City sink from what I saw in 1991. I was warned when I came as an expat. I was warned that be careful where you venture out. Always carry $20 in your pocket and a cheap watch, because if you're accosted, you at least give something to somebody. Mayor Giuliani changed that. But look at what New York City, and you talked about the law and order, is a big problem in all these big cities. So I totally understand that you need not have any how the New Yorkers vote, but you, as a smart politician, if you have the finger on your pulse, what do you think is driving these kind of policies?
Well, I mean, Democrats vote for Democrats. You know, we know that. Democrats vote for Democrats no matter how bad the policies. But, you know, we have to remember, they believe in those policies. They believe in high taxes. They believe in lawlessness. They believe in, you know, letting people riot and break, you know, private property. They believe in that. And you know, look, if that's what they want to believe, then, you know, okay, well, that's what's going to happen in, you know, cities and states that they live in.
Do you visualize? This is a very important thing, because this debate has happened a lot. It's happening a lot, that Democrats may just end up doing away with filibuster, doing away with the making Washington, D.C. as a separate state, Puerto Rico, and have a permanent majority in House and Senate that Republicans can't do nothing.
Well, they'll never have a permanent majority in the House and the Senate. That will never happen. I can guarantee you that. But you know, I will say on the filibuster and, you know, DC statehood and some of these other issues, that, you know, we should all be very, very thankful to Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema, who are preventing very, very bad things. They're the reason we don't have $15 minimum wage. They're the reasons we don't have a disastrous capital gains tax increase. And so, you know, while they are Democrats, they are the only two reasonable Democrats in the entire Congress. And so, you know, we should all be very thankful for Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema.
Yes, I totally agree with you. But the issue is, Joe Manchin is here. He may not be there tomorrow.
Well,
Also, I
we will
remember
win.
John
The
Reed
House
when he was.
majority will be taken back in 2022. Republicans will take the House back. No, no, it's look. If you look at the if you watch politics, if you looked at the last election cycle, Democrats didn't make a single gain.
Yes.
Only Republicans made gains. 17 seats were flipped. The Democratic majority is very slim. We're in a midterm election in the first midterm of a new president. Everything that is shown shows that the Republican that we will take back the House.
I would hope so, and I would think it will happen. I also subscribe to that thought because there is an element beyond which even reasonableness goes crazy, and I don't think the sight of San Francisco, Los Angeles, New York, cities and shops being looted, and the homelessness that drives that entire. It looks like a third world country. That's dangerous thing that is happening. That people are getting into the shops, looting and going, and nobody is able to stop that. That's something bizarre. How can any Democratic Party member support that? Because we didn't leave our countries to come here to live into same lawlessness again. And I think this is a great chance for Republicans to take over the House and the Senate. And I wish you well for that. Now, coming to that question that is coming, you are a young man, you are a state senator. I'm definitely sure that your ambition doesn't end there. Do you have desire and ambition to be United States Senator, just like
Well,
Barack Obama did it?
I appreciate it, and I would say first that I'm extremely grateful for the support, particularly in the Indian American community, that has allowed me to be a state representative and now a state senator, and I am young, so I have time, but look, I think federal issues are very important. When we look at our community, we are impacted by federal immigration policy. We are impacted by foreign policy, right? Our relationship with India and the world here in the U.S. matters, right? Our relationship, the fact that we have Indian members of Congress joining the Pakistan caucus is a problem. The fact that we have a president of the United States who has publicly opposed CAA and publicly opposed the abrogation of 370 is a problem. And so I do believe we need voices in the Congress who are going to actually represent our community and actually, fight to strengthen the U.S.-India relationship. And so, I have plenty of time, but one day, yes, I plan to run for Congress.
I wish you well, and I hope to see you there in Senate in my lifetime, and not too. It won't take too long, as the saying goes that you are doing well, and you strike when the iron is hot. And I'm very delighted that you brought about the conversation on U.S.-India relationship, and it's personally very disappointing for me to see that how the United States government today, the president and everybody, is attacking things in India, attacking things Hindu. And this is rampant across the country. And I am very disappointed with one thing, that the Indians who represent in the Democratic Party, I haven't heard anybody say, hey guys, let's look at what India's challenges are. Everybody has their own challenge. So when American president says, I'm doing everything for America, why must not India do everything for that suits India? And what gives us the moral authority to lecture, sermonize a country which is a bastion of democracy for not 70 years since independence, but thousands of years of its own existence, where pluralism and freedom existed?
Well, it's important to remember that this is a small thing, but a big thing symbolically, and shows sort of attitude. Typically, after the G8 and after NATO nations, the president of the United States calls the prime minister of India. It took this president weeks to call the prime minister of India. Now that may be because Joe Biden believes that Prime Minister Modi is conservative, but that shouldn't matter, right? India being the world's largest democracy, India being our only friend in the region, India being a partner against radical Islamic terrorism should be one of the first calls made outside of, the traditional first calls. And the fact that, this president took weeks to make that call, I think is shameful.
I cannot agree with you more. And the word that you use, shameful, is I'm in total agreement with him. It's stronger word can be used, because I think what the Democratic Party wanted to do was to perhaps teach Modi a lesson for being close to the conservative values of the previous president, who was openly anti-Islamic terrorism and the varieties of things. There was a confluence of thoughts between the Republicans and the Modi-led government in India. The threat is indeed very serious. I consider that, having watched this scenario for last as many years, is that Democratic Party pays lip service to the relationship with India. And there needs to be a greater real understanding of the American interest in India. We can't be part-time lovers. We can't be using jingoism like, natural partners, strategic partners, but mean nothing. One of the things which is very important for every Indian, and that I can tell you with a guarantee, just as you gave the guarantee that you will win the House, I can tell you, every single Indian is totally shocked that America befriends all the India's enemies and preaches India who to be friends with. It totally shocks. And that is one thing that at the people-to-people level, United States and India are the two biggest democracies in the world. US must recognize that hurting a democracy like India or undermining India's own imperatives weakens America in turn. And that's the message which is very important for all of us to understand as Indians, as Hindus, as global lovers of democratic principles.
I couldn't agree more. Well said.
Thank you very much. I wanted to come to you with another topic. We talked about the values, immigration, foreign relations plays a key role in American politics. I had the privilege of listening to the great satirist P.J. O'Rourke, who during the Bush second term election in Waldorf Astoria had said a funny thing. He said, America will always have a serious problem with foreign policy and immigration policies because every goddamn American is a foreigner. So how can you ever reconcile the policies of immigration foreign policy because everybody is a foreigner here? Your thoughts on that?
Well, I think, look, federal immigration policy is very complex, very complicated, but it also shouldn't be this hard. When we disincentivize legal immigration, it increases illegal immigration. When you have a 20-year wait to get a green card, it incentivizes illegal immigration. When those who are south of our border cannot get reasonable work visas, it incentivizes illegal immigration. And so there are common sense things that can be done, but unfortunately, neither party is willing to do them.
Why is it so? Because I have been hearing about comprehensive immigration reform since 1991. Perhaps you were not born then. I have been hearing about it since then, comprehensive immigration reform. And you are right. Nobody addresses that issue in the manner it needs to be. Because if we champion ourselves as a country of laws, if we champion and treat them as with respect and dignity, we give them food stamps, we give them medical, we shelter them, and we tell them, be happy. The question is how it must be controlled. We are all immigrants here. I'm not anti-immigrant. I came here on L1 visa, converted to green card, and stayed on. I had decided that I will not live even for a day as an illegal. But my case is different than others. But people are coming here. This country is huge. It can absorb people. So what is the reason that the legal immigration numbers from 1 million is not increased to 2, which makes it possible to rationalize the immigration process here.
Well, that's exactly right. Unfortunately, our broken legal immigration system only incentivizes illegal immigration, and it's something that we have to fix. I do still have to go at 11:30, so I don't know if we want to do one last question.
Yes, sure. I mean, the one thing which I wanted to talk about is, does Mr. Trump have chance in 2024? Is he going to come? Should there be a restriction? Because seeing Mr. Biden perform at 79 and going to 80, do you think there has to be some kind of an age restriction on becoming the president? I'm not talking about term limits. What are his odds at the moment as you speak?
Well, I can tell you that if President Trump runs for re-election, he will win. He'll win the primary, and he will win the general election.
Thank you very much for being on the show today. I do apologize for technology mix-up. Otherwise, we would have had some more time to talk. But I will invite you again because you will reach the global audience of Indians here. And I know one thing for sure, that only Indians do not make up your constituency, and you have to attend to the needs of others. I have only one submission to make. Recently, we had a major fight and we won. The whole thing that happened in New York on swastik, you may have heard about that. The entire Indian community came together. And I have only one request to make all politicians, and to you as well. We may or may not ask for any favors. I will only humbly submit to you that if there is anything that the people who are antithetical to this group of people like Indians, if something is happening, let's know about it. I don't want to hear, like a assemblyman in New York said, I did not, an Indian guy who said that I did not know swastik was so important for you. So my submission to you is, Neeraj, that join us in making sure that no one does any harm to us and that we get our fair share of the American dream. Thank you very much for being here, and best wishes, and I hope you will come back again.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.